Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lambremont Webre, and today we have the great privilege to be with Thomas Althouse and Nicholas Jackson, both of whom are here to share with us a story that, as Thomas said, he's really down to just him and his son. And this is a story of corporate and individual theft of the highest order. Viewers of Exopolitics TV have heard this before in many guises. You've heard it in the story of Charles VII of the UK, who had all of her intellectual property stolen by the Seven Gate Syndicate that reached up to the House of Lords in the UK. And ultimately, we witnessed where her witnesses, one of her key witnesses, Ronnie, was assassinated at the beginning of 2019. And we've attempted to have several shows with her, which have been blocked, probably by the intervention of MI5 or MI6, some police agency in the UK that is in league with the Seven Gate co-conspirators that are using the class system and state power and state terror illegally. And we've had other guests here, like Raynetta Jones, who has talked about the issues of corporate theft at Apple. And so Thomas and Nicholas here are here to talk to us about the American film industry, I believe specifically starting with The Matrix, and that would reach up through the Steven Spielberg. Some people say Steven Spielberg, but where these corporate film giants in the Hollywood complex are actually organized crime, where they are a kleptocracy that just monitor and steal intellectual property and destroy the creators of that intellectual property. I just wanted to set the context for that. And so I'm really, having set that kind of general context, I'd like to really turn it over to you, Thomas, and to Nicholas to provide more of the details, because I know you really said very starkly, this has taken everything. And I'd like you to put it out there on the public record so that we can begin to mount this and really begin to prosecute the kleptocracy that calls itself Hollywood.
I really appreciate that, Alfred. I mean, when you have all these people making claims about copyright and their scripts are stolen, take a look at their personal lives. If they actually are the real deal and they actually are the money worth what they're saying and the value of what they're claiming and the real genuine person, they're going to have a trail of attrition and loss in their lives. And that's where you know the movie industry has really assaulted them, and what they say is they're going to destroy your life. And we've been told that by middle contacts. And you're going to have people who are middle players, we call them, that will contact you, let you answer, have questions answered. They want you to have the knowledge of what's been done to you, so you come across like some kind of lunatic when you try to relay it. So I've actually taped calls from contacts that are connected to Disney, Spielberg, and they've actually told me that my last son living is alive because they know I'm concerned for his safety. I have it on tape, Alfred. And also that the reason these things are being done to me, they said, you have to understand, it's all about power. and they're concerned about writers having power. Now, a lot of us writers are simply writing to lift the ceiling on what's possible through art, to put our passion into works that might, you know, revolutionize thinking in the industry and engage audiences and make a more critical thinking platform for people in the industry. And we're not thinking about, you know, getting rich and being famous. That's not what drives a good author. A good author really wants to be in a service role, to write something that really engages people intellectually and serves their audience. That's a good writer. And you'll hear a lot of the people that make claimant to being the actual authors of certain pieces, a lot of them are just concerned about building a fan base. That's not our case. We've paid our dues. And to make that, to illustrate this, how deep this goes and how far they go when you have a piece such as the Matrix trilogy, they'll do inside jokes, first of all, and you'll be contacted by insiders that usually want to remain anonymous, and will tell you exactly where to look and what to look for. And I don't know if you've seen it, Alfred, but for your guests, if your audience, there's things like this. I'm trying to hold this up here on my phone here. You're going to see a clock face there. Do you see it? That clock face has numbers placed exactly where the thieves wanted them. This is a shot from the Animatrix, right? And you're going to see the numbers 7, 2, and then 1 before the 60 on black hands, right? This is made known to us through a contact. That's my exact birthday, July 2nd, 59. The red hand in Animatrix points to the 4 past the 4. See the red hand? Now that red hand represents my age in 2003, 44. It was a clever way of graphicing that. So 44, 4 past the 4. That's how old I was in 2003. A red hand in the industry, we're told, means also a hit or assassination. The Wachowskis wanted me dead. They don't want to look over their shoulder. So what to do to destroy you as an author, first they take your sons and murder them. Then they take your women and take them to bed. That's the archaic caveman thinking they employ, such as Harvey Weinstein, Mike Lang, and the different ones I'm dealing with, like Spielberg. So to further illustrate this point, my wife, my last surviving son, his mom left me on my birthday, July 2nd, right? And they specifically choose birthdays and holidays for maximum effect to cause despair and anxiety, right? To, you know, create that kind of environment for you. She left me for somebody very notable. Mike Lang is Harvey Weinstein's boss, put in place in Disney, right, by Michael Eisner. Well, we have the email from Mike Lang, Z at Zion, offering his bed with a shaving kit on it, a picture of his bed with a shaving kit, to my wife on my birthday with the words, Becca, her name, move in with me for 60 days, question mark. The answer that person gives is, very nice, a smiling, blushing icon, and away she goes. She left Ada and I. That's how far Hollywood goes to destroy you. Now it goes further. It's like Total Recall. I mean, we find out that this woman that had come to me, this Rebecca Northcutt, she's provided by the attorneys from Warner Brothers. We didn't know this at the time. So think of it this way. When they're going to steal material from an author who actually has done his work and proven himself, what they do is they keep talking about the art of war. So you win your war before you fight your battles, basically, they say. And so they also work on the principles of a book called The 40 Ways of Power. My wife was given that book, and it specifically says, choose the winning side and destroy the other side. You know, pick the winning side. So she wanted success in Hollywood. She got it through Mike Lang, Harvey Weinstein's boss. And what's interesting is they'll tell you, and I have tapes of this also, where they say they're going to destroy you. Well, I didn't realize what destroy meant in Hollywood, Alfred. Destroy means kill your sons, take your women, destroy your reputation, put you away, and have you Epstein, we call it now. What just happened a couple days ago fits what we're talking about. Since I have 14 other screenplays, there's been a bantering going on between these Hollywood contacts saying, you know, okay, let's make a deal. Let's show us this work. And I said, of course not. I said, I'm holding on to this work so my last son stays alive, right? And so what they did recently, and this is what Americans, especially Americans, people in this country need to realize what's done in our country. They can haul you off in the middle of the night, no trial, no lawyer, no evidence, just put you away for good with a criminally insane. And we learned this because we had banging on our door, police showing up, body armor on, cameras mounted, skull caps like they're in some Navy SEALs movie, and they're saying they're taking me to the crisis center. Well, there's no causation, there's no reason, because it was put forward through corrupt officials that I had a murder-suicide pact to kill my son and my parents. Now, that was just a couple days ago. So I was hauled off on a 302. So in this country, it's like a Guantanamo Bay for Americans. They can take you anytime they want by taking like people like Spielberg or Mike Lang, having them contact officials and write up a 302. Take note, a 302 means they're going to haul you off. You have no recourse, and once you're in, it's over. That's how they do it in our country. And so I was actually fortunate to get free from that, and now we're told they're going to come again. So even while we're doing this interview right now, I'm under threat of being hauled off again. I have no criminal record or anything. Nothing. I don't drink. I don't smoke. Nothing.
Right. Okay. Let's just stop it there because this is amazingly intense.
Yeah.
Let's just back up a second. What is it that you've created that has this behemoth so threatened that they have gone to this point? What exactly do you own that has them so threatened? What is that you're showing there?
This is the Matrix right here. There's no copyright on the Matrix, but there is a copyright by all these main players, Spielberg, Wachowski's, Warner Brothers, on the title, The Immortals. They all copyrighted a title, but no body of work, right? At the Copyright Office. So these people, the director and supervisor of the Copyright Office, stepped in and gave me this. This shows that I'm the author. And this is 128 pages. Alfred, it's got everything from the train station, all the tabs here. It's got everything from the train station scene, the squiddies, the matching figures, little girl pointing at the sun, identical figures facing off, the pulse wave coming out, turning Earth green, underground, the key turning the one device, liquid mirrors are the security device, the train station. All that's in here, 190 matchups. So what they did was they did this. They copyrighted, so here, right here, I don't know if you can see this, but you'll see an entry on the Assassins, right? The Wachowskis did the Assassins. And you'll see here Dina Laurentiis and De Laurentiis films, right? And the Wachowskis. So they copyright this, but they don't copyright The Matrix. What does Dina Laurentiis copyright? Here you go. They copyright The Immortals. And then you'll see here, Dina Laurentiis again, De Laurentiis films. So they're copyrighting my title, and what we're told is this. It gives them a slot at the Copyright Office. And when that Red Hand in 4 prediction comes true, and I'm dead, they simply slip my work into that slot, and it's over. Also, what's on that work is 346 other titles. Those title entries are so anybody who has a take on the work, because they said that my work was revolutionary, the Matrix story, the Immortals, all those things that are lifted. So anybody that wants to have a take on my work can take one of those titles and it's still registered as a slot at the Copyright Office. Now here's where it gets really chilling. I'll try to concise this for you. Here's the last entry. When I go to Hollywood to work with Ellen Gear, right, and I resubmit my work in 96, I submitted in 93 through attorneys, James Boyd in Norfolk. We have his affidavit and everything. This entry right here is The Immortals again. And what they do is they switch it to the 2 leading investment firms in our world. Now, why, Alfred, did they do that? Again, all the titles, additional titles, no body of work. The reason being, and it's explained to me by insiders, now that it's considered the creation of investment firms, well, investment firms don't create intellectual property, right? But since they put it in their names, they now have a slot at the Copyright Office with my title on it, right? And 346 extra titles. That way, the investment firm can give out the work to anybody who has a take on my work, and they feel safe taking it because the investment firm claims creation and ownership. Every time the investment firms give out that work, they make money. So it's a perfect little wheel. They just didn't think anybody would catch on or we'd be informed. Now, if I'm dead, in the slot goes my work. End of story. If I'm a 302, I don't even have access to public media, any kind of phone, any kind of computer. I'm gone as some kind of absolute dangerous Jeffrey Dahmer Hitler, and you'll never hear of me again. The deal also was posed like this. If I'm shut away with a 302, I'll be desperate to see my son, right? Well, they have attorneys already set aside this stencil in Spokane, Washington, which is considered the playground of Hollywood, where my wife went with Mike Lang as the investment property. He's set there to take my son and recondition him to believe his dad is some kind of monster and evil man. Then if I behave myself, I either get to be back with a broken son, partially broken myself, no name credit, right, for these guys, no name credit, behave myself, they talk about obedience, and they'll have my work for the privilege to be with my own son and eke out some kind of broken life. If I don't listen to them, I stay in that criminally insane hospital and I am Epsteined. I'm removed. But first I'll be slipped a note that says my son had an accident. It's all been explained to me. That's how far they go.
Wait. And to date, you have had no legal recourse either through the criminal law
no,
or the civil law?
No, what has happened, they made sure, like you'll hear, oh, he lost, you know, get over, he lost. That's a talking point they use. We never had our day in court. They provided Becca Northcutt, right? But I didn't finish telling you, don't think. Becca Northcutt was not the woman she made herself out to be when she came to me. She has a criminal record for prostitution in Modesto, California. She was provided by the Warner Brothers firm to be a player, to marry me, to have access to our evidence, and also to make sure I went forward with a court case. She made sure I discovered the images of the little girl at the train station, the little girl pointing to the sun. So I would go, oh my God, honey, that's my work. Yeah, you better do a lawsuit. So then she has me meet this attorney. She says she doesn't know who he is. Turns out he had been her landlord, Anthony Rankin, who works with Warner Brothers. So they provide me my own attorney, throw statute of limitations, throw deadlines. Warner Brothers' lead attorney was Linda Burrow of Caldwell, Leslie & Proctor. They were classmates, Rankin and her. So what they did was had it all like the art of war, all set up, where they can say to the public, oh, he lost his case. We never had a day in court. They blocked the main evidence. They altered evidence. They made sure that we never had things on time. Defendants weren't served. And when Rankin was there with Becca on me, Linda Burrow stipulated that we can continue our case after Rankin failed to serve the defendants on time. So they had game over, a win from Rankin Planet throwing the case, but they wanted to continue the case so they could get access to all my work, throw the case, get all my notes and discovery, give them to the Wachowskis and Joel Silver, and guess what they do, Alfred? After the case is thrown in April 2014, they announce Oblivion, Sense8, and Warner Brothers' take, which is Elysium. And what do? Again, the names are placed in the films. My brother and sister's name, Jack and Julia, are the leads in Oblivion. My brother's name, Mark, is used as lead name for Larry's character in Sense8. And what you have is my exact material with each of the defendants taking their own take on it because they just had discovery with it right in front of them, studying it for this thrown case, that they immediately announced they're doing it. In fact, the Wachowskis said in 2014 that they were going to do Sense8. It was too big to write down. So they got $1 million deal on my work without even writing a sentence. That's how they work it.
So what you're saying is that they did an intellectual property theft and then infiltrated your life in a way that preempted you from exercising your authentic legal rights.
Well said. Yes. And to do a second theft. The second theft is through the court itself. Make sure that you don't have a chance in court, block the main evidence, miss the deadlines, throw it. We didn't even have ADRs. We didn't have discovery. I wasn't allowed to. In fact, I have a form here from Rankin, that attorney that was supplied, and he's saying that, he says right here, he says, it's you have to see it to believe it. I am not going to do face-to-face depositions with the defendants. Well, what kind of attorney is that? But yet in the contract, he's saying, that if I fire him or don't continue with him, then I have to, we don't have a contingency any further. I have to pay every out-of-pocket, every hourly expense immediately so I can't continue a case. And so they had it set like that art of war where I had a shill for an attorney who's working for the other side. In fact, they bragged in court in front of this guy, Frank Ayala, to let me know from the court that Rankin was, quote, in their pocket. I had no idea how much I was being screwed. And this Leslie, Caldwell, and Proctor attorneys were bragging that I was worth about $500 million at the time, had no idea what was being done to me. And so this is how they did it. This Frank Ayala that told me is listed on LinkedIn as being endorsed by Leslie and Proctor as their litigation support. So it was all a set deal. In fact, Lenny Coco, let me just sidetrack a second. When I pitched this to Bonaventura in 1993, right, and then Boyfoot and Norfolk sent it in, when I pitched it to Bonaventura, it was through Lenny Coco of Lenny Coco and the Chimes in Long Island, New York. It turns out the firm that we were supposed to be handed off to throw our case is a relative, the paralegal's a relative of Lenny Coco. So they set it all up that I would make sure it got into Bonaventura's hands, who still claims he discovered and shepherded the Matrix story and is one of the few that understands it, because he had the script, I pitched it to him, answered all his questions, of course he knows. So you got this incredible story where it goes on with things like this. If you go to my website, redpillrising.org, right? And I'm glad to be dealing with critical thinkers finally. Thank you for this opportunity, because I know you guys will look at this and research this. redpillrising.org. If you look at it, you're going to see a first entry made in the Matrix story. It's first slide you're going to see on that site. That entry is put there by the Wachowskis. In fact, I have their testimony here that says that it was put there by their art department and by their production department, right? Well, the head of that art department is Michelle McGahee. The head of the production department is Owen Patterson. Now, that's important, because if you go to that graphic, you're going to see that first graphic in the Matrix story in the interrogation scene with, all right, here you go, Central West High, my high school, as Neo's high school. You're going to see on that graphic, July 22nd. Well, in 1996, my records for me showed my birthday is July 22nd. That clock face I showed you says July 2nd, because they get it right in 2003 in Animatrix. They put July 2nd, because the records then showed July 2nd. They even corrected it. So they have my wrong entry first in July 22nd in the Matrix in 1999, which would fit for the records, and then a corrected one of July 2nd. It's just mind-boggling. Then you have John A. as Neo's dad, which is my dad's name. It just goes on and on. And then in the column of that entry, you're going to see TA 4099 in the column in bold graphics, right? Well, TA was 40 in 1999. And then it has the numerology numbers 380, right? And I've been informed that 380, the Wachowskis, as fans know, are very into numerology. 380 means something like to give up your most valuable, cherished earthly possessions to prepare for your death. Well, does that not say what's been going on? Is that incredible? I'm not getting any volume. 1 second.
I keep on putting it on mute so that the camera will go back and forth, and then I forget. Sorry. It seems to me that they have attempted to place you in their matrix.
Well said. That's what these players are telling me. These contacts, they're saying they've put you in your own film, because brilliant. Like I said, Alfred, that's brilliant, very astute, because they like in my piece in the Immortals, the architect, right? To balance the equation, first of all, I want to give this to fans or people who are just intellectuals out there. They always talk about balance the equation and what does free will have to do with it, right? And I love that you raised this for me. In my piece, if you have an architect in an immortal program, what's the biggest problem for that architect? Why do you need to have this balancing of the equation? Because if you're an immortal architect in a program, your biggest problem is the atrophying of your mind, the lack of stimulation to feed your intellect. That's what your big problem is. Now, the Wachowskis wouldn't understand that, but those of us that are smart would, right? And so this architect needs to stimulate his mind. That's why you have robot-like agents. What's interesting is Joel Silver says in these articles that talk about when they're first bringing this forward, my piece, He's saying to this guy, Bob, you have to understand, it's robots in the program. Wrong, Joel Silver. You're not that bright. It's not robots in the program. It's robot-like agents, and that's right from the pages. You'll see on the Red Pill Rising thing. Robot-like agents. The stakes are higher when you're a human in this program that's not allowed to show any emotion, or you're terminated. That's why they have the scene of Smith just taking his earpiece out when he's interrogating Morpheus, and the guy comes in. The agent goes, "No, no, no." Stupid version of what we had. Actually, if you take your disconnect, you're terminated from disconnecting. So they missed that whole part too. But the thing is that what the architect does in my piece is he has agents that are robot-like. They're terminated if they show feeling at all, right? They're monitored. And the room of monitors exists. And what they're doing is the agents are supposed to stir up trouble, because the architect knows everything we're going to be thinking in the real life story here. Everything we think or plan to do, he already has figured out, right? That's to stimulate his mind. And so the agents stir up the mix, and so it makes it more stimulating for him. Then he has a plan to replace the stimulus with something that doesn't need to be renewed or monitored or nurtured or farmed, and that is the pure power of worship. So the identical figures at the end, and keep in mind that Wachowski said they're not going to blow up the Matrix. They say in articles, and people who follow the story will see this, that they claim that everybody said blow up the Matrix, right? And they said, we're going to stick to this ending, which is exactly my ending. Little girl at the train station, identical figures facing off, into the crater goes the one, out comes the pulse wave turning the earth green on a little girl comes up, hugs supposed to be Neo, not the Oracle, and points to the sun and has a final line to have that awe moment for audiences. That's my piece. So the Wachowski are saying we're going to keep the same ending. That's telling. Also, there's a 20-foot rule. If you're within 20 feet of the Wachowskis, you're fired, because I was told by their own attorneys, off record, my script was in hand, along with a visual storyboard they created. They thought they could then genesis it from those two items. That's why the 20-foot rule. But it didn't work. So arguments started to ensue on set, and that's why these arguments would occur, right? How to wrap it up, with everybody saying blow it up. And this author says right here to you, Alfred, they should have blown it up. Once you take my visual items they thought were exciting and cool, which is what they did, and put it in a visual storyboard, you took the spine out of the story, Wachowskis. It's not going to hold together. So now their attorneys are claiming, after the 2003 shoot, that they claim that it was all one seamless piece shot in 93 to try to trump me. No, it wasn't. It was actually done in 95. They started writing in 96 when they failed in Assassins, and said they failed as writers and needed a science project. But the point is that the Wachowskis and Joel Silver now claim that it was meant to be 3 separate pieces, not congruent. Interesting, because they couldn't tie it together. Once they took the spine apart, once you lift one single item, and you know this as writers, one key item out of context, you've unraveled the story's spine. That's why it never makes sense. And that's one of the reasons they didn't want to do interviews after they started. So to balance the equation, and you allow free will, you have people set aside in Zion, not 6 generations. The architect knows exactly where they are. They are there as a pure humanity to be brought at the right time by an ambiguous oracle, to see Christ return, but it's to be the architect returning as Christ. That's the one figure that will have devotion from the entire planet, and that makes a free source of human free will given to you to stimulate your mind for eternity. Balanced equation.
Now, what has prevented you from turning this around and put that whole thing inside of your matrix? That is, write the next version of the screenplay, what is happening to you, and produce that.
We're doing it now. Saying? You're absolutely right, and that's what we're doing. Nicholas and I are working on this stuff. We're doing it, but we have to understand too, these contexts are telling me I'm infamous. What you'll hear public say is, oh, he lost, get over it. No, he's a plant. Or even Sophia Stewart, which I don't want to discuss her. I'm so sick of her now. So sick of her shenanigans. She's a plant from USC, put out to be the first claimant so that people say, oh, it's already been claimed. And now they're sandwiching me like a middle son, where they now have these guys that claim they're from Marvel Comics coming forward, and they were the fail-safe, right? They're supposed to claim after me, so that it looks like I'm full of smoke. But the thing is, the facts that we've been saying, the inserts are there. It cannot be denied. Any critical thinker, like we're now working with critical thinkers and intellectuals now. That's who we're talking to now. We're done with the general public, because it's a circus out there. It's like dealing with a mob. I want to talk to critical thinkers and intellectuals that actually take the time to see this stuff, see it's there, and go, okay, yeah, the guy's telling the truth. And that's what, so we are, you're astute what you're saying. Yes, we're planning to make this, but we'll need the backers. And until our my reputation is cleared, I mean, you got to understand, I'm going to possibly shut away again as a 302. And it's like, so I've been trying to keep my last son alive and dodging bullets for so long. And you got a lot of corrupt officials involved too. And I can get into that if you want to hear just locally what's going on here. So it's amazing how they set up the structure where, you know, we're actually dealing with a corrupt congressman locally, and he has control on our local police.
Yeah. So how old is your son?
He's 13. He just made a tribute. You're great at it. I love your lead-ins. He just did a tribute piece called A Father's Journey, right? A Loving Father's Journey. And that's just starting to air. And I'd love for you to see it. It's on the site also. It's the first thing you see on the site. But he's 13. He's a high honor student at Tamanin Middle School. He's learning piano. He's playing soccer. He is popular in his class. For some reason, this poor child who had a prostitute for a mom and a plant who said he was never supposed to be born, right? A Spielberg plant, has just risen above everything. And when you see this tribute thing he did, and gives honor to his two sons that were murdered, or two brothers, and it's just like, you watch this, and I was in tears when I watched it immediately, because it was like, I got to see where my son came from. He's lived it his whole life, what he's witnessed and what he's seen, the injustice in the courts, the planet attorneys, the planet judges. It was just unbelievable what he's witnessed. And then coming through with its calm, focused, rational, where even I took him to see counselors and some psych people just to, you know, see, is he okay? And they said, we're not even going to touch him because he's so well adjusted with everything and looks up to you and feels so secure with you. We're not going to touch it. He's fine. He's fine. He's adjusted. So he's thriving.
And what was the story of his two brothers who were assassinated?
Well, this is where it gets kind of rough, obviously. Now, there's all kinds of accusations that have been thrown at me, like, oh, he doesn't feel anything, he doesn't care. I try to keep it together. I'll grieve once all this is done and we make the film like you're talking about. Then I'll sit down and grieve for a month. I'll cry my eyes out. But right now, I've got a job to do in honor of them and lifting them. So I'm going to keep it together, right? I don't have time to grieve yet. So here it is. My first son, we have to consider, I was a Mason on Maui, right? Part of the Brotherhood. And I didn't realize that on Maui, there's a lot of operatives that get involved in the Masons. Well, that would make sense. One was a Lauren Holmberg, and he's a CIA operative, makes no bones about it with me. And I have gifts from him, like exotic gifts from Africa, this chessboard made of animal fur from a chieftain. That's pretty exotic. And this lithograph he did, this beautiful illustrated period, which has the Mason symbol in his signing on my birthday, and, you know, Lauren Holmberg and all. He's an artist on Maui, besides an operative. And so he came to me and brought me into the Masons. And I thought, he said it would be a great way to use your acting skills, you know, be a brother, and we look out for each other and take care of our families. I thought, oh, that sounds good. Okay. I didn't realize what was really going on. I do not knock the Masons, first of all. I'm glad I was a brother. And as far as I was told, it was just to be look after your families. And I like from that aspect, sure. I didn't know a lot of the dark stuff, or if it's really even there. But I do know that Lauren Holmberg and this guy, Paul, were CIA operatives, told me that they were fans of the work, that my life was over as I know it. I was one of the elite now. I'd have all this information that would blow my mind. And then they said something chilling. Don't try to make a difference. Don't try to make a difference. Just enjoy what's coming to you. I said the wrong thing, Alfred. I said, well, I believe I can make a difference through my work. Then it became a nightmare. So when I was away, they tried to blackball me out. A brother, Christopher, who came forward and said, they're trying to blackball you unjustly out, which means blackball means you're a traitor. And there's some penalties for that, heavy. And so he informed me, we saved my status, and he told, I have a message from him where he got all this flack for doing it. So this is what it ties into my son's death. My son had a Masonic death, He's an expert swimmer and diver. He was 30 years old. He had told me about, I have a Forrest Gump kind of life, by the way, for people listening. I had actually been involved in Pat Robertson's religious rite. I am Forrest Gump to the T. And when I was there, I told my parents it might be a good place to study. I didn't realize that Robertson is off his rocker. I didn't know. So I went there and did all these studies. I was an A student in a place at an attrition rate of 50%. Next thing, I'm being groomed to be the face of the Christian Coalition in 1988. This is the precursor to the Matrix story. His security people had the sunglasses and the robot-like presence, and that's where it generated, like Shakespeare in Love. That's where it came to the Matrix story. So that's the genesis of the iconic agents, Robertson's security force, which were anyway. So when I was there, I found out about a sex ring operating. Everything was taken away from me, and I turned into Art, whispering through Art Robertson's plans. That's really the genesis of the Matrix story. Now, Kirk's death. Kirk told me about meetings that had occurred when Robertson had taken my children away through connections, and they had been given a social worker to convince them their dad was bad, evil, narcissistic, paranoid, schizophrenic, anything they wanted. Exactly what they had plans to do with Aiden if they pulled him away. So Kirk told me that my daughter at the time, who's really the genesis of the little girl at the end pointing at the sun, Terrace, who's been reconditioned and turned, caved first. Then my older son, who was also killed later, Sean, Kirk said that he didn't know what to do, was confused, so they let him go. To Kirk, Robertson's people said, until you believe your dad or these things that we're telling you, we're not going to stop these sessions. So Kirk pretended to believe. As a 30-year-old, he sought me out on Maui, told me what had happened about these sessions, went to this Japanese military base with his mom that I was divorced from, and he's murdered. What they did was they drowned him in a lap pool, the Masonic death, a cable length from shore. Masonic death. An expert swimmer and diver. How do you drown in a lap pool? The claim is from Stars and Stripes, wherever, and family bought off contacts that are well rewarded. The story is that the lifeguard conversed with my son, and he said he was going to hold his breath underwater. Right. And the lifeguard said, well, you're obviously safe. Left him there on a military base alone? What? A person's going to hold his breath underwater? Then they claim they came back and saw him drowned. They revive him, and Stars and Stripes says there'll be some kind of investigation. End of story. Murdered. Murdered. My other son, we had just had a conversation on the phone. The Mike Lang wife, Spielberg wife, that was provided, Warner Brothers wife, when she leaves me on the birthday, before she does, she sends Aiden and I to Canada for our safety quote. And she'll be coming, and she's playing this part like she's afraid and everything's going after her. So she sends us off to Canada, to friends of hers. I get run down by a car. I survive. I still have a messed up wrist. And we talk to Sean on the phone. So Sean and Aiden and I are together on the phone. And he's saying, Dad, be careful. Be careful. I believe in you. It's coming back to me, these sessions. He hadn't remembered. These sessions with Robertsons it's coming back to me now. I remember this, what you said. It's happened. And I know now. I want to make this movie with Aiden. And I'm proud of you too, Aiden. So this conversation ensued. The next day he was murdered. He was waved over into a snowplow. And in our area, we have a congressman who's very corrupt. And I'll say this clearly. His name is Brian Fitzpatrick. Brian Fitzpatrick's in Spielberg's pocket. He is actually FBI California. And somehow he gets to be our congressman right here in our local district, our congressman, who's actually still FBI California, who claims in this article I have right here that he's part of the FBI Anti-Corruption Bureau. Well, if that doesn't sound like the Japanese, politically correct squads that went around in World War II, I don't know what does. So he is an operative posing as a congressman, and it gets better. He has my sister, who used to be a big fan and support, in bed. He has my sister contacting him daily, working with him daily. And she's actually only, Julie Zarco's only a school counselor, not even licensed. Yet she's his expert advisor, this congressman. So he is here to make sure I am 302'd and has the local police working for him. And I'm telling you, Sean was killed with the help of the local police. So they wave him over to a snowplow, as explained to me. And only his passenger side's dented in. That's how you can tell. And there's a picture of it. The driver of the snowplow is never mentioned. Only a dent in the door, and they say he was instantly killed. In an SUV, after he had just talked to me the night before on the phone saying, be careful, Dad. Be careful on the roads. Be safe. I'm proud of you. I'm starting to remember.
Yeah, so this is state terror by the national security state. at targets, and
It's how it's done. It's how
yeah,
it's done.
it's how it's done.
If they 302 you, you're hauled off like Guantanamo Bay. You'll never be seen in
Yeah,
person. And they
yeah,
can
exactly.
steal your intellectual property. And this is the other thing too, Alfred. By hauling me off with a 302, if they could come banging on the door right now, they could do it right now. Fitzpatrick wants me out of the picture, so does Spielberg. We had an insider from Spielberg come forward and show us some more documents that are in the Copyright Office just recently. So it's all hitting the fan. But if they came and hauled me off, the other thing is too, they then have access to our house, the evidence, the screenplays they've been clamoring for, everything, the tapes, anything. They clear you out under gathering evidence.
How did you fight off the 302 that allegedly occurred several days ago, was it?
Great question, Alfred. Great question. What they did was they had everybody in place. You have to have 4 people put it through, right? They had everybody in place that we didn't have a word to deal with, just signed off, right? That were in their pockets. The last one had to be a doctor, but they had Secret Service actually come outside the holding area, and they let me know they were Secret Service. So I had 2 guys that work for Fitzpatrick, right? Outside the door, because my sister brags that she can get Secret Service on us. That's how power hungry she's gone. And keep in mind, she's got rewards as black tie dinners, engraved invitations, school counselor, trips to the same place in the Caribbean where that Trudeau went with that Arab yacht and stuff. New York, San Diego, Jimmy Fallon show appearances, CNN, which is owned by Warner Bros. Appearances, Sandy Hook spokesperson. Like I said, black tie dinners. She got the top award for psychiatrists in Pennsylvania. She got to be the president of psychiatrists in Pennsylvania, all thanks to Brian Fitzpatrick. That's how they do it. And she's bragging that they're going to.
And that was how many days prior to our interview today, which is on Saturday, February 8th, 2020?
I was hauled off about a week ago.
7 days prior to this interview. Isn't that interesting? Do you think that that's a coincidence?
There's no coincidence at all. No coincidence.
Yeah. No, I was once 302'd, and the way that I got out of it was I asked for a habeas corpus, and I was hauled before a judge, and the judge said, "This man, you have no cause." I mean,
Thank you.
I was perfectly, and so always ask for habeas corpus. That's the basic writ of common law.
I think they knew we were going to, obviously we're going to have an interview. They monitor our stuff. So obviously they knew. So this is so important, because what happened, to answer your question too, thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. No. See, I used to be a Hollywood producer. I lived on Havenhurst, just a half a block down from where they murdered John Belushi at the hotel there. And so we used to have black helicopters come down on our apartment building. I lived at the Mikasa apartment building that had been brought over from Spain as a villa. And it's I understand about how there's a spiritual war between the forces of light and the forces of darkness.
Yes.
There was a great catastrophe here on Earth where many portals were opened, and we fell from fairly high dimensions, some people say 12D, 12th dimension, and this energy has infiltrated. And the dark people that you see, they're thoroughly captured by the dark energy that's entered through these portals, and we can see the light energy, and that's the basic struggle that's going on. They have no concept that they're captured by the dark energy. They're totally unconscious.
Remind me to tell you what I got as the writer of the Matrix story, what I got as an understanding given to me, and this thing I saw that I want to share with you at some point here. But I do want to answer your question about the doctor, how I got out too, because you did raise that.
Yeah, please. Go ahead, sorry.
The last doctor that came in had been, she was supposed to see us at 12 o'clock, right? All night, staying up, Secret Service out, walking around, making sure I knew by saying to the person monitoring, we're going to talk to his doctor before he sees her, right? They're going to make it all set. So she's supposed to meet us at 12 o'clock, my mom and I. Instead, it's 3 hours later, she shows up, harried, hair disheveled, comes in with a ream and says, I have a ream full of allegations on you here. Unbelievable. Including mass murder pact and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God. And she's like, basically, you're not getting out of here. And I said, well, can I present to you what I have? She goes, well, why would they do this to you? All these allegations. I said, I have an answer. If you have an open mind, I have an answer. I have my script with me that I held up. I showed her the clock face. I showed her that graphic that's at Red Pill Rising with the inserts, the first ones that Wachowskis blamed their departments on. And I went through the story and everything like that and what had happened to my wife and things like this. And she just left the room. It was like 7 minutes in on that. Left the room, came back and said, leave now. You can leave now. Go. Leave. Yeah. Yeah. So I was really, I really shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. They had a foolproof plan, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, that matrix, see, the frequencies of the ascension are such that matrix, their matrix is inoperative because they're only operating according to as much within their darkness. But our light is so powerful that, you know,
well, you just hit
it was the power of this interview that was working backward in time and blew them out of the water. That's the problem.
You just put light on something else too. I think it's pretty fascinating to tie in because they meticulously plan these things out. Like you think of the planted wife, the planted attorneys, everything is meticulously thought out. And one of these things is this: there's been a switch. Instead of killing me now, which the Wachowskis are still egging on, I'm told they still want me dead. Wachowskis don't think very deeply, but the powers to be, such as Spielberg and Eisner, wants to clear his legacy now. They see me now as, quote, an asset. Remember the provided wife, Becca? They had a woman to replace her. A Stephanie Tanner calls me, and I taped her. And Stephanie, you need to know this, I taped you. Because Stephanie Tanner gets on there and says, I'm not supposed to be talking to you right now, but I'm going to talk. I can't wait. She had a red glass blown pill necklace for me. She said she was to replace Becca, that she had been through all this ultra stuff from Berkeley, her sister and her, from baby up, and that she doesn't even know who she is. But get this. She was the wife of the guy who wrote Napoleon Dynamite. You don't make this stuff up.
Wow.
And he disappears and leaves all his materials and scripts there. Well, that's interesting. So she's calling me for me to be with her, coming out of Canada, right? And saying this: you need to know my brother-in-law, the man who married my sister, is Patrick, top legal for Warner Brothers intellectual property claims from Columbia University. So I would be having Thanksgiving dinners with a man that was one instrumental in ripping me off and destroying my family.
Yeah.
And then the plan
it's the snake eating its tail. But you know, you can step back because you are an immortal. And you are in the light, and you are of the light, and you're not infiltrated by the same darkness that consumes them, so that you can actually now climb out of this matrix, and you can actually start, you know, call it journey away from the matrix, or you can call it the matrix re-examined, or you can look at it as the matrix up on the hill, or turning the matrix inside out. But just start a new book or a new screenplay that just takes everything that you told me now today and makes it a play or whatever, and it can be a play, and you can start putting it on, you know, in storefronts, you know, while you get enough money, and then finally get it to the screen. I mean, really.
Well, that's what Nicholas was talking about, and Nicholas is just sitting here so quietly and so nicely. He's great. This guy's amazing. He's
okay.
godsend.
Yeah.
But it's like it was his idea to do the play, and so you're talking his language, and I could.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Nicholas, tell us.
I was telling Thomas to do like a Hamilton type play like they just did on Broadway. Are you familiar with Hamilton, the famous New York Broadway play?
Well, I know. I haven't seen that play, but I've heard enough about it, and it's become a fixture of.
So I was telling Thomas he could do the same thing. I mean, the Matrix is worth billions of dollars. It could even surpass Hamilton. Yeah.
So now you can take this and bump it up to the next dimension, which all the players in this matrix cannot reach because they're too infiltrated by the dark energy. So you just bump it up to the next level and you just create it there.
I am loving this interview. It's such a nice lifting thing. I'm used to being grilled to pieces and like, you're like, oh my God, what are you? Some kind of insect? And it's like, this is so nice. This is so nice.
No, this is creative work. I mean, I can see how this is the next level of this work.
I see it.
Because that's what they've attempted to do.
Well, this is
and now,
what Nick's been saying like he's been saying, make this play. And at first, I mean, Nicholas can tell you, I was hedging at first, going like, what? Let's get our rights. And it's like, let's prove this. And he's like, well, make this play, fun things and things like that. But I do want to share something with you that you've hit. Very interesting switch happened, like that red hand on the 4 thing. There was a switch, a division in the factions now. I'll call it factions of the Hollywood players involved in this, because so many people had to take on that work. It was considered revolutionary, as Bonaventura said at the pitch session, that all these different factions had takes on it, right? And so that's why the multiple names, titles that were entered without a body of work, so that everybody can have a take on it. And that's why after the case was thrown in 2014, out comes Joel Silver with his take with Oblivion, which Disney held on for him. And then Sense8 for the Wachowskis, and Warner Bros. Themselves through Greg Silverman, promoted through this theft, employing Sony to bail out Sony on Great Gatsby, does Elysium. And so they each have their takes on it. But here's the deal. I was supposed to be killed after I saw my son's dead, and Aiden would be killed. And I do feel this, believe me. And then the wives are bedded. That's why the contact said it's about ego that Mike Lang did this. Ego. It's a dumb move that we've had this email showing this, and then it was even struck from our devices, but we had an external drive. Then we give it to Frida Babson. I divided my copyright among some different people who were generous, sweet artists to make a multiplicity of holdings, so that Mike Lang's strategy, who's a strategy for intellectual property theft, would have a problem trying to acquire it, because his solution is the authors die, and then they simply put it through the course and slit it through the slots. So I had multiple claims saying they can't do it that way. That makes a nightmare for them. But the point being that I was supposed to die, right? But then as soon as they learned we had 14 other screenplays that I have in hand, then it became, don't kill him, put him away with the criminally insane, and we'll get those screenplays from him. So instead of dying, I'm supposed to be shut away now. And my son.
Thomas, can I interject something? You had mentioned someone
get on it, yeah.
You had mentioned someone earlier by the name of Patrick. Is that correct?
Patrick, yeah, Patrick Legal at Warner Brothers.
Was it Patrick Perkins of IP?
Yeah, they said that she said that you'll see him there. He's the only Patrick that really stands out. You'll see him right away.
Yeah, because Patrick Perkins is the head of trademarks.
No.
So he's the one that helped Avis Frazier perpetuate the Matrix trademark fraud. So if it's the same Patrick,
well, it'd have to be
talking about the same Patrick Perkins. Him and Avis Frazier were the one.
I would have been having Thanksgiving dinner and be
to the trademark office.
I would have been related to him.
Yeah.
Now there's an intellectual property strategy. Provided.
So I don't know. I'm assuming there can't be that many Patricks at one.
No, she said it'd be the one. She said it'd be the one from Columbia.
The head of trademarks.
Do you know that he started out to be a really nice guy and then got sucked in? And they
you said he's the brother-in-law or the husband of who?
The brother-in-law of the girl that was supposed to replace Becca, who was friends with Becca. Yeah.
Oh, the other plant, the one that was supposed to be the next.
The one I was supposed to raise. I was supposed to see. They don't make settlements, Alfred. They make arrangements. That way, it's all been explained to me. So you don't get settlements. You get arrangements. If you take an arrangement, then it's clean hands for them.
So Patrick of trademarks, he's tied into this plot as well.
Yeah. That was the whole deal. So the arrangement, you're gonna love this, Alfred. The arrangement for me was I'd be marrying this woman and raising alpacas on a farm in Idaho. There's my deal. Yeah. It's like they're writing some B movie. I don't know. And then they, like you said, they put us in our own movies. And you're right. We're rising out of it. And it's like now, this is the other chilling thing about all this. Now they're vying for the real life story. Now we have different, like Disney and these other ones making overtures about, through their contacts, we want your real life story. We want the rights to do your real life story. Well, they just put us through hell. You want our real life story. But the deal is whoever gets that rights can cleanse their part out and make a profit off of what they did to my family.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah. So how much time do you spend creating this alternative future, this kind of positive future where you're building this next level?
I can't stop. It's like the one thing I do is I'm always, I forget what they call it, thinking, always. That's why I had to turn to art and creativity, because I couldn't stop thinking. I kept creating and kept coming up with music and thoughts, and it was like driving me crazy. I had to be turning it into art, or else I would be a machine tearing itself up, the gears grinding too hard. So I'm always creating, always, always, always.
Right, because I know that we all would like to see the next level matrix, which is
right there,
your next level. So
as I said,
go for it, you know, go for it, start doing it. I know that you could crowdfund it, you know.
Oh my God, if people would support it, it'd be great, because we were talking, Nicholas and I, we've got contacts calling me that are with Spielberg or Disney going like, could you write Matrix 4? I'm like, I could write it in a month. It's like, it's my world. And that's what's interesting about this Matrix 4 coming out now, is that they were looking for a writer to write it. If the Wachowskis actually wrote it, they'd write it. They wouldn't be looking for a writer to write it on the planet. And then they're going to write from the Matrix world, the world I created, right? And so they're going to write from that world in order to steal it. It's all the pieces are there. And then they're claiming that, you know, it's like their expert witness, Pete Rose from Princeton, is saying, Althouse created this fantastic world. And you look at the interviews where the Wachowskis in 1995 are saying, we failed as writers in Hollywood. We have to pack our bags and leave unless we're given the science project. See, those 346 titles, they're supposed to pick one of those. Instead, they went off page and came up with The Matrix after they got the rights to write it, which was in 1996 and 95, right? And you look at the entries, Teresa Wayne's testimony from the story department, right? She says Joel Silver submitted the work to the story department in 1994, right? So if the first time he's seen it is in 1995 and 96 from the Wachowskis, something's rotten in Denmark, all right? So yeah, but it's like they left this trail of just incongruity. They think the world's stupid, and that those of us that actually are worth our salt as writers aren't going to follow these trails. If I'm smart enough to write the Matrix story, I'm following smart enough to follow your trail of steaks, not breadcrumbs. And it's like, even part of that is, the Wachowskis have an interview where they say, we have Plastic Man and Carnivore. For audiences that are really intelligent out there, and I'm talking about the ones that say, oh, your hair must be dyed. I'm talking about the ones that actually critically think about what we're talking about. It's clear that the Wachowskis said they failed as writers in Hollywood. That's in print, right? And it's clear in an article too, they say, you know, that their Bible was how to make millions in Hollywood without spending a dime. B movies. You make low budget movies, not my movie. This screenplay right here, with the only copyright of The Matrix on it, Immortals, that they copyright, this is a hell of a load of money to shoot. So the Wachowskis got the suits to back them by claiming they could get it under $1 million to shoot it with green screens, right? At the same time, they cheapen everything. You know, they make the crowded train station scene where it's supposed to be tons of people pushing their kids forward for a better life down to a static family, right? Things like that. But they say they want to do Plastic Man and Carnivore, and they're still pushing it today. Plastic Man is about a person who defecates radioactive material, not my kind of stuff. And Carnivore is about somebody who eats rich people. It's crap. Sorry. I hope that's not a bad word to say, but it's trash. But that's what they're still pushing. They're still pushing the original work, which is that. Failed painters, failed at everything their mom said except video games, right? And so then in the article, they were asked, what's next after Assassins, right? And they go, well, we have Plastic Man and Carnivore. And the transcript of this article actually says, pause. It says, we're hoping to be given the science project. Wake up, the science project. They didn't want to use one of those titles. So it's like they failed as writers. The only way they can save their career is by directing a piece. And what's the piece they're given by Joel Silver? Bound. And who's the lead character's name? They have a penchant for this. The lead character's name in Bound that represents Larry? Violet. And why is that important? That's my maternal grandmother's name.
I see. And what's the significance of that? I just want to
Keep wanting to be more clever than the actual writer. So they keep in my personal items like my birthday, my high school, my dad's name.
I see.
In there for a split second upside down. Susanna Bolgen said anything for a split seconds for their eyes only.
Okay, so to me, this says you've really got to get started on the screenplay or the book of the next level.
Right. And stay out of the lockup that they're trying to put me in now.
Yeah. Just get started on this project.
Stephanie Tanner actually told me, I believe it's on tape, Stephanie Tanner told me that, Tom, you're actually their star player. They've kept you on the bench. And what they do, Alfred, is they break you and remold you. And she said, you're putty in their hands to them.
Yeah.
So this quote's what I'm being given. So they break you, destroy your life. I have that on tape, a couple different sources, that they can then mold you and ply you, and you're a broken man.
Yeah. So, but now it's easy because you have the light. They don't have that.
Yeah.
You have the vision.
Right.
You can sit down at however you compose on the computer, you do paper and pencil, whatever.
And you know what else?
Whatever you do.
You know what else?
Tell me.
Get this one. I don't mean to interrupt. I think you'll enjoy this one.
Yeah.
Let's put it out there as artists, as writers. Let's put it out there. The era of Joel Silver, Mike Lang, Harvey Weinstein, Steven Spielberg, I'll use that. I like it. Their era is coming to an end. They are not needed. They are in the way of artists. They have no creative bone in their body. They are middle fat that needs to be cut out. Get rid of the Silvers. Get rid of the Langs. Get rid of the Spielbergs. We don't need them. Let the artists do the work and find a way for the artists to bring forth their work without these fat people in the way of the creative force.
Harvey Weinstein collapsed in court, I think, this past week, didn't he, or something?
Yesterday.
The what?
Yeah, he collapsed. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know why they brought Harvey Weinstein forward? Because I was in testimony bringing forward about Mike Lang. So you see these articles right at the same time, and you'll see these articles where it says Harvey Weinstein's boss, but never mentions Mike Lang. You can't even see pictures of Mike Lang anymore. Mike Lang was, they're having Harvey Weinstein come forward with this stuff so that when it's finished with Harvey Weinstein, no one will think there's anything left of the smoke to look at Mike Lang. You're not supposed to notice him. That's why they were so upset about the email with my wife being taken to bed by Mike Lang, because that's like Obama taking my wife to bed. When you think of it. Yeah, it's huge. They're very upset about what we have. So now it's a matter of, it's kind of like this. Get this image here, Alfred. It's like contract in one hand, dagger in the other at the same time. It's like they're either going to kill me or they want me to make a deal. But I like your idea better. Let's lift out of this.
Yeah. Create and move. I mean, see, you're moving out of their matrix.
I got 14
into your creation, which is beyond anything that they can even know about.
Right.
They do not have the beingness to even know that creation.
Right. See, that's it. It's like right now our humanity is dealing with sort of an idiosyncrasy format right now, where it's like you're going to see all these people getting on and raging and saying, Sophia Stewart's the author and all this stuff. No, she's not. She's a plant from USC. But it's like this mob going forward here. And we got to rise above the noise and let the critical thinkers and the intellectuals who actually take the time to look at the evidence and weigh it quietly and see it, and let that mob bluster at the bottom there. And let's have the critical thinkers actually bring forward the truth and find ways and fund ways for the actual authors. I want to help other writers. I really do. I don't want any other families to go through what my family has. Sophia Stewart hasn't lost sons. She hasn't lost a husband to one of the movie moguls. She hasn't had these things happen to her, right? And the same with the guys from the UK who claim to be the Marvel comic writers. No, they're, as Nicholas and I were discussing, they come into play to create plausible source work claims that Silver has put there in-house from Marvel to say, oh, these guys did this here. But how come they didn't surface until I came forward? They're making me like the middle child. So it's like, look, this person makes first claim, this person makes later claim. They don't want you to have either first or last claim. They want you to be this guy who's just lost in the shuffle and some charlatan. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoa. So,
thanks for having me on, because I'm so glad to be able to share this stuff.
Oh, sure.
What boxers do I wear?
Now, for those of us who want to follow your work and want to see your next steps, your next creative steps, okay, is that where we go to? Is it Red Pill Rising?
Red Pill Rising, yeah, it's replaced all these other ones that were under control of the provided wife and things like that. So they all got struck and all the funds were taken. Now we have our own website, redpillrising.org. Yes.
.org.
And I invite people to look me up on Facebook too. Look for Tom Althouse on Facebook, and you'll see myself on Maui with my son on my back. My beautiful son's on my back. All I have left for this now. And thank God they thought that was a tool that would influence me to, keep him alive. So now we can get forward with that. But feel free to contact me there too. Befriend me if you want. If I still have the room, do it. Happy to have people on board to share the story and the journey.
Yeah. Well, we've come to the hour the hour mark here, which is kind of where we keep our programs now, because it's about what people can absorb initially. And you have said so much. I mean, for a student of the Matrix, quote, end of quote, I would say they should come and watch this program and really to get inside of it and begin to understand. So is there anything in specific that you had wanted to say today that you have not had a chance to say yet?
Well, I'd like to say this. You are such a gracious host, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's been a breath of fresh air to actually be able to work with, a critical thinker and somebody who has a heart and compassion. I want to share that was the genesis, the idea, the theme, or the code, if you will, in the Immortals, which really called the Immortals. They just talked, Wachowski stuck Matrix on it, but they copyrighted Immortals title. So really is the Immortals, but Matrix. The idea was to gather to through the art, make a call out like a beacon to those that have compassion, expertise in their fields, talents, cross disciplines, to come together through that work, be called together to make difference in our world by like a think tank, or combining our expertise in cross disciplines and compassion to make a difference in our world. That really is the code, if you will, that they talk about in the Matrix. That's the code I intended. And so the themes involve friendship, things like that. But I would pose to you, Alfred, if it ever works sometime, I'd love to come back on with you at some point, if it works, and talk about where the genesis of these different scenes and ideas come from, where the creative spark came and how it came, and the process of how the piece was rendered. I'd be happy to offer that at some point. So just as an offer to you, because you've been so great. So yeah. Well,
let's in fact do it, because I was about to offer you, I did, and so we were both thinking along the same lines.
We are.
And I think that there's a great history there.
Right.
And just you're saying that about the Immortals, I mean, the hair on my head is going,
yeah, it's all there. If you look at Red Pill Rising, you'll see some of the exact scenes there from our work that match the train station scene and everything. Oh, and get this, the liquid mirrors where you take the red pill, which I have the red pill, blue pill. You take the red pill to enter the program, right? And they have Neo stick his hand through the mirror. Guess where the mirrors are in the Immortals? They're the security devices at the train station. So if you take the red pill, you can pass through the mirrors and get through the train station. See? And when Neo is trapped in mind, when Neo's trapped between worlds, he's no longer part of the program. He's cut off. So the Trinity character, which I use a biblical name called Remnant, which fits that idea of gathering the remnant, right? Together to make a difference in our world, right? Compassion and expertise, the remnant. So her name is Remnant and Monique. She comes, and since she's still part of the program, she takes him through the liquid mirrors. So the liquid mirrors are integral to the story, but again, the Wachowskis cheapened it, lifted it out, made it into just a sideshow. Yeah.
Well, To be continued.
To be continued is right.
Now, Nicholas, is there something that you had wanted to say, or are things that you'd like to leave our viewers with?
No, the only thing I was going to say earlier was we had brought up about the musical, the Broadway musical, and I really hope Thomas does that.
I say publicly, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Right. Yeah. So start writing the Broadway musical. I mean, I don't know. I mean, start doing it. You know,
this guy in the other box here is a great writer also, and so we've been bouncing it together. It's been a nice mix. Yeah.
And anybody out there who's listening, there's a musical going on here, or there's a play going on here. So get in touch. So how can people get in touch with you? Is it through the Red?
I don't hide from anything. That's not my word.
Yeah.
I believe, don't hide. So I'm going to give you my actual phone number.
Yeah.
I don't care. So my cell number is, and anybody can call. I can't answer everything, but it's 267 893 0847.
There you go. So that number, from your lips to God's ears, collectively, we can raise the matrix, on every stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Through a creative musical. I can see it now.
Something cool
I
too.
can see it now.
Look at this, Alfred, right here. You can't really see it, but right on the back of my neck,
yeah,
there is a little hole.
Uh-huh.
I used to touch that and go, what if we had a library of memories and you can jack in? And that's why the Wachowskis say, do jacks for real.
Oh,
that's where it comes from. But anyway, I thought it'd be interesting. Anyway,
well,
loading your brain, but
No. This is all historical.
Yeah.
Great, tremendous. Well, I look forward to your returning.
Yeah.
And 2020.
This is the
year. That's it.
This is the
That's
year.
it.
This is the year.
Thank you so much. This is really extraordinary.
Well, that's the thing. The evidence is, when people go to the site, I'm not trying to toot a horn, I'm just trying to say critical thinkers and intellectuals now are what we're looking at, because they'll see the evidence there. They see the inserts. It can't be denied. So let's get on with the next steps.
Exactly. So we will have, our next program will be the next steps.
Perfect. I love it.
Perfect.
And how it genesised. I do want to share.
Exactly.
Because people don't have the pieces, unless they look at the original work, they don't have the pieces. They'll never be able to answer the philosophical questions unless they have the original work, not the lifted images and disjointed that the Wachowskis and Joel Silver gave you, but the actual original work connected with the spine intact. That's when you get your questions answered.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Okay. Thomas Althouse, Nicholas Jackson, we salute you, and until we meet again.
Pleasure. Great pleasure.
Great. Thank you so much.